Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are joining us today for this globally focused event. I'm delighted to welcome you and tell you a bit more about Tech Bay Area Advocates and what has brought us all here today. Tech Bay Area Advocates is the San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley chapter and hub of Global Tech Advocates. Global Tech Advocates is a group of more than 20,000 business leaders, experts, and investors volunteering their time to campaign for the betterment of the global technology industry. There are 20 hubs in the Global Tech Advocates ecosystem. Tech Bay Area Advocates was the fourth hub to launch in late 2016. Peru will be launching next in September, so we have that to look forward to. Global Tech Advocates is the only truly international grassroots tech community uniting the private sector in multiple cities and regions worldwide. This global ecosystem is diverse and inclusive by design. It is dedicated to championing and supporting startups, scale-ups, and tech professionals in deepening their knowledge, their connections, and in starting and securing funding for their own businesses. Tech Bay Area Advocates works with 19 other hubs in 55 countries to connect advocates to each other. Many startups have been funded as a result of the ecosystem, and new partnerships have been formed. Tech Bay Area Advocates has a particularly active focus on VR and AR, tech for good, and women in tech. I helped launch the Women in Tech working group a couple of years ago, and I would greatly welcome all of your ideas, resources, and leadership to make this group more active. The Global Technology Advocates ecosystem has several women in tech groups across the hubs. It totals thousands of women worldwide. The largest and first was formed in London at Tech London Advocates. In the past 2 years, a Black Women in Tech group was formed to provide resources and help Black women excel in the technology industry. They now have over 1,400 members and are global. So one of the things we're going to do today is share resources and action items. I'd like to give a shout out to Jeanette Carlson, founder and CEO of Tech Nordic Advocates. Jeanette and Tech Nordic Advocates have launched a 3-module strategic program that's focused on mentorship and sponsorship in the technology industry. They're Europe's only Women in Tech founded international mentoring program that has over 200 people involved from around the world. Anyone who joins this group today can actively participate in this mentoring program. We'll be including more information in the follow-up to this event on how you can get involved. I cannot stress enough the importance of mentorship and sponsorship. I feel very fortunate to have had supportive mentors and sponsors, both men and women, throughout my career, and I appreciate that we all have this opportunity today to pay it forward. I have to give a shout out. One of my biggest advocates has been James Klein, who's on the board of Global Tech Advocates. You really need people to help you recognize the exceptional qualities that you do have and the opportunities that you should take on, and to be there to advocate for you and to put you forward. And I'm thankful to James for doing that for me. So anyone who joins today can find out more about this mentoring program. I know Lannie will be talking more about that. I think the fact that it's international is a really unique and great opportunity. I feel fortunate that the firm I work at, Bird & Bird, has set up an international mentoring program ourselves, and I was paired with a fantastic mentor in Poland. So I can truly attest that there is value in being paired with an international mentor and getting that global mindset. A couple of other things before I introduce Lannie to take over. Another essential part of this group is, spreading the word and amplifying the pre-existing resources, events, and groups in the Bay Area that are focused on advancing women in leadership and women in technology. One resource that I personally would like to recommend today is Get On Board Week, which is run by How Women Lead. I'm part of the leadership committee for Get On Board Week, which is a virtual week-long summit of advocacy and action to catapult fearless women leaders into corporate board seats. It will be happening in October, so please do get in touch if you'd like more information on this, and I hope to see you there. I also wanted to announce that Tech Bay Area Advocates is planning a virtual meetup and roundtable networking event on July 28th. That will be to connect members and continue some of the discussions that we're having today. More details will follow after this event. So All right, why are we here today? The representation of women in leadership roles in the technology industry has been abysmally low for a very long time. Some of the factors that contribute to this are early inequalities in access to education, less access to funding, less access to mentorship and sponsorship, like we mentioned before, and many of the unique challenges that women face while starting a family or caring for family members during the peaks of their careers. I know we'll get into some of these topics a bit more and share some more ideas and resources today. But the key reason that we're gathered here today for this discussion is that the barriers to entry and the barriers to success in the technology industry are even higher for BIPOC women. It's important for white women like myself to find ways to advocate for our diverse colleagues and use whatever power we have, be it big or small, to promote and advance diverse women in the technology industry and underrepresented women. Increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and therefore fostering a sense of belonging is not just the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do. Diverse teams are more creative, and quite frankly, companies with diverse decision makers at the helm are more profitable. Diversity solves problems and enhances all of our experiences in the workplace. I'll just say that an orchestra with all violins will not sound good. On that note, you've heard enough from me. I'm delighted to introduce our moderator today, Lannie Medina, who's the founder of TBAA Advcocates, who will introduce our panelists and dive deeper into how we can all help diverse women enter and thrive in the tech arena. Take it away, Lannie.
Thank you so much, Maya. First, Maya, I want to thank you personally for being involved with us from the very, very beginning. So consistent, so positive, and so resourceful, and for taking the helm today and introducing our event. This is a very exciting group of people, including you, and I really appreciate what you do. Want to also thanks to Russ, who is listening in, and Russ is the founder of Global Tech Advocates and Tech London Advocates, so he's the big boss, as they say. And knowing him quite a long time, I can say he consistently is a great supporter and champion of women in tech and diverse women in tech and humanity overall. He is a very special person. I also want to thank Ricardo Ibarra of What's a Lab, is a marketing agency in the San Francisco Bay Area, who did that fabulous video that you first saw. And who is recording this entire session so that we can wrap it up and distribute it out to all of you so that you can send all these good words out. I want to reiterate how exciting it's been to be a part of such a powerful, diverse, and inclusive tech ecosystem. So in my immense career, it has not always been that way. I was, one of the very few Latinx women in fintech early on, building some very big products. Also then in institutional investing, and then moving over into this segment, including building the first e-brokerage. So I was alone. And as many of my colleagues who are diverse, it has not always been fun. It's been very demeaning at times, very confusing, and it always takes a lot of moxie and persistence to be very effective and get out there and do things so that people are heard. So to be in this ecosystem of global tech advocates and running the Tech Bay Area Hub is very, very meaningful, because seriously, over 20,000 people in 20 hubs working for the greater good of the overall community and the ecosystem. I'm pleased to reiterate that our 20th hub did a soft launch this past week and is doing a hard launch in September. That is Tech Peru Advocates, under the tutelage and leadership of Vladislav Mihalchik. And he is online listening from Peru. And I will also tell you that we have via Zoom and Facebook Live, we have people from about 11 countries. That is the power of our ecosystem. That is the power of the globe staying together. And just as a hub leader of one of the sibling organizations, getting through this pandemic has been so much easier because I was able to just reach out, or people were able to reach out to me, and we kept each other going. With these power and numbers, we continue to champion, connect, and support tech entrepreneurs, leaders, investors, and academics, including students, through programs and resources. And at Tech Bay Area Advocates, so close to things like the Kopa Center and underserved youth going into STEM, that is our Tech for Good mission, is developing, Tech 20 under 20 kids, what many would say with kids, who have a chance to do something different, and working with all those networks and with the tech companies on what the heck are you doing for these kids, and what are you doing for the diverse community. We don't want just words, we want action. So that said, I have 4 announcements. This is our time. Today is a discussion with calls to action. We have 4 amazing women. I will mention them by name in a minute. Let me get the announcements out of the way. First, Global Tech Advocates, all 20 hubs, are adding a Tech for Net Zero as a primary focus going forward. You will see on our websites the Tech for Net Zero Resource Hub, which has everything from white papers to other resources, surveys, and events that are going to speak about how this entire ecosystem is dedicated to getting things right for our climate, because we're almost too late as a world here. We know that, but we are not too late to really kick into gear and to get this done. So Tech for Net Zero, primary focus, along with everything else that we always do. Second, our Women in Tech group has always had diverse women attending. We always try to find a balance on our panels. We now said, this is ridiculous. Why did we just say women in tech? So we are now diverse women in tech, and we're excited about this because now we have so many more people who can come to the table and really feel welcome. And if, for those of you who are new to the Global Tech Advocates world and our hub as well, we are extremely inclusive and obviously diverse, with a Latinx founder and many people across the world to join us. Third, I want to reiterate what Maya said about how impressed I am and amazed by my fellow hub leaders, including Jeanette Carlson at Tech Nordic Advocates. Under her leadership with Barry and others, they have always been very consistent in producing consistent, effective programs. I am so excited about the collaboration, details to come, where people in the Bay Area will be able to be mentored by people around the world. I too have survived by mentors, starting in my first career in the investment world. I was only 23 when I started in that world. If it hadn't been for founders and mentors that took me inside and worked with me, I wouldn't have made it. I would have just been, I don't know what I would have been, but maybe I would have gone back to dancing or something like that. But I want Jeanette and Barry to know how grateful we are for including us into this effort and how excited I am to see what the results are. Another announcement is to continue the engagement and increasing of our numbers in the tech arena on boards in the C-suite. We are beginning the series of virtual network events, as Maya mentioned. We are also working with other organizations such as the Human Rights Institute, some colleagues at Stanford who are data scientists on what it would look like to have a scorecard where we evaluate how we're doing. So I'm in touch with many DEI officers in Silicon Valley, and what are their actual numbers? Because the numbers are all over the place. All we know is that the numbers, yes, abysmal, hideous, all very correct, but we want to see how we are doing 1 year, 2 years. Black Lives Matter really brought a lot of issues to the surface that needed to be unsilenced for so long. And we continue that work. And now my point, being a geek myself, I just want to see the actual manifestation of what we're doing and how that does it. So you will be hearing updates on that over time as we build that model and report out the results, and most important, continue these other organizations in with us so that we're all reporting the same types of numbers. Okay, time for me to move it quickly to the panels. I have the utmost pleasure. I'm going to have the women introduce themselves with a short story of their name, affiliations, obviously, but 3 minutes on what they view as the main challenge and success they've experienced as a diverse woman in STEM and tech. And with that, I'm going to start and go in the following order. Suki Fuller, Flavilla Fongang, Karima Catherine Goundiam, Judy Kopa. And I do have questions, and you are also in the audience welcome to add questions either to chat or to Facebook Live. We have someone monitoring that who is texting me the questions so that we can get to a Q&A at the end of the session. And with that, to you most wonderful woman warriors who I very much admire, all of you, take it away. Suki?
So I guess I'm first. Okay, Suki Fuller. I am a fellow at the fellow of Competitive Intelligence Fellows, the Council of Competitive Intelligence Fellows, and I do a number of things, quite frankly. And if I say all my titles, it'd run on for like 10 minutes. So cutting that short, I run my own company, Rearview, which is Strategic and Competitive Intelligence. I'm on the board for GTA and for TLA. And I am also the co-lead for the Women in Tech group and on Flavilla's committee for the Black Women in Tech group. So basically, Russ has me like 48 of 24 hours, basically my whole life. So I'm in the TLA family, firmly in the TLA and GTA family. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I mean, it's really silly to do that whole bio because we really are just here to discuss. So that's short and sweet. That's it. Competitive and strategic intelligence. I advise VCs. I help startups. I basically tell the story of data. That's it. Short and sweet. Do I need to do that other part, or are we gonna do that afterwards? Because I think the other part should be done afterwards. I just hijacked your whole panel.
No, you did it all. I just no. Let's keep rolling, and it doesn't have to be in the order I stated. I was reading from a list, so any of you can go next. I want to make sure we're all on screen because we lost a couple people here and there, but I think we're all back.
I'm happy to go. So, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Lannie. I really enjoy it, and I'm so glad to be among these amazing women. As you say, a lot of great women. So my name is Flavilla Fongang, and I think the best way to tell you who I am is to tell myself, but very briefly, because I'm actually writing a book about it. But that's going to be another story for another time. So yes, proud African, born in Paris, from African parents, and moved to London really with the idea to stay for a year. And I've been here for more than 20, almost 2 decades. And I think really what really inspired me to stay is that, sometimes, you have to believe in the mirror of what you see. And I think I saw more success of people who look like me in London that I saw in Paris. So I worked across a number of sectors in oil and gas, fashion and luxury. And as a consultant first before, I took a focus in technology after, finally listening to what I was advising my clients as a branding and marketing person. I decided to focus on technology. And then when I focused on technology, I quickly realized the lack of women sometimes, and sometimes the lack of Black women. And I probably decided to go against what I saw. And I believe that there were amazing Black women out there. And I remember I always love to tell that story because that's how I met Russ Shaw, the founder of Global Tech Advocates and London Tech Advocates. He was talking about an event and telling about the shortage of talent, and look at us now and how relevant technology was, and look at where we are right now. If it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be connected right now. And really, that was my haha moment. I realized I need to do something about it because first, you can't really, we always talk about diversity as an opinion, but actually it's good business. And because my team by nature is diverse, and that's how we create great brands, I realized I need to do something about it. And I reached out to a couple of people, and I reached out to Russ, and I asked Suki that I wanted to work with her, and the rest was history. And I launched Chile Black Women in Tech with just good heart and motivation. And our group has grown and become fantastic. And now we are excited because we're going to be writing a book that will be telling the stories of Black women in technology, and that will be distributed across 300 schools. So yes, but I can tell you much more things, but the rest is for. So yes, my company is called Three Colors Wool, and it's a branding agency and marketing agency for technology companies who want to be the next game changers.
Marvelous.
So I guess it's me now. So hi everyone, I'm Karina Catherine, and I'm based out of Toronto in Canada. I'm the founder of Red Dot Digital, which is a digital transformation firm. And since February 2020, 3 weeks before COVID, I launched a new algorithm-based business matchmaking platform that now has companies in over 40 countries and 40% of women-led businesses. So that's amazing. I'm also the lead for Tech Canada Advocates, which is where I have my, where I work with my colleagues Suki and Lannie, and you, obviously Flavilla. So I'm really glad about that. Like, my two other panelists, I do a lot of things in tech. And for me, that was the opportunity to really see the glaring lack of underrepresented women. And I have a specific focus for intersectionality. So as a tech entrepreneur who works with the corporations and SMEs all the time, I think there's a massive opportunity to help change the game here in the narrative. So thank you.
Thanks. Judy Kopa. I am a CFO of Penzera, which is a software AI company here in Silicon Valley, California. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Taiwan, came to the US when I was 17 years old. Our parents literally dropped us off here in San Jose, California, told me to study hard and figure out the American dream. So I kind of chug along trying to work my way into the American world. I've always had jobs here in Silicon Valley, high-tech technology-based companies, and coming from finance, being an accountant. We have a lot of women in our profession, but I work in an environment and companies where it's predominantly male engineers, really smart people. And so it was lonely at the beginning. And without our parents here, I really literally have to find my way in and out of this world. So I learned this philosophy of SPA over the years. So getting a sponsor over the years, thanks to Paul McFeeters, Brian Plug, and CEO from Penzera, Jill Stillfox. They've been sponsors to me and open doors, giving me opportunities to try things out. So I had sponsors. And I also had partners. My husband is a wonderful partner for me. I have a circle of friends that I could go out and get the unfiltered, honest feedback about decisions I have to make, advice I need to get. And with the sponsorship, with the partnership, people helping me, I was able to keep learning and keep advancing, broadening my experience. So I kind of carry this SPA, sponsor, partner, advancing card with me as the guiding principle. And over the years, as I pay forward, I share these philosophies with people I work with, teams I built. So with that, with the SPA principles I've had, I was able to get into a position, being a business unit CFO at Cisco, being a CFO here at Penzura, where I would lead a team to develop our strategy, building the operational plan, and operationalizing our results, measuring our outcome, so that my team and I have a seat at the table. As we look across, we're in tech. We are in a world of a lot of engineering focus, a lot of male-dominated positions at the high level. But I found a way to have a seat at the table and leverage our skill set and grow a career that way.
Wow. I've definitely empathize with what you've gone through, because that was how I felt, very alone.
Yeah.
And very demeaned and always struggling with the diplomacy of how to push back without getting fired. That was the world of what was fintech.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we have a point of view. I could do something and make something happen. So how do we get ourselves there with confidence, with a support?
Okay, absolutely. So let's go back around, because thank you, Judy, for not only saying who you are and some of the places you've been, but you really described what your challenges were. And you formed your own methodology on how to cope with it, which is SPA, which I love. And that is very helpful to all diverse women, to all women, to human beings, really, about how to get through when you are feeling marginalized. And it is really crucial for the underserved youth who are listening on what they need to do, because I'm hearing just in the first 20 minutes of this event, the importance of mentorships, sponsorships. Those relationships are crucial, where there's a feeling of safety and so forth. Suki, you wanted to say something, and then we'll go around again before we go on to the next question. Thank you.
Where do I start?
Well, tell me what the main challenge that you maybe just one or two, and how you coped with it and what you did about it. It's that.
I think the first, I'd say the biggest first hurdle and challenge was, as a child, being told that you were not good at a subject. So you were basically told you weren't good at maths. And when somebody tells you that, it sticks with you. And regardless of somebody telling you that, you're just like, okay, you accept it and you go about your education. And my grades in math were not good, but I kept getting placed into classes that were advanced placement. So there I was in school being in advanced placement, chemistry and physics and calculus, when I didn't know why I was there. I was like, well, my grades aren't good, but when you take the test, I do well. So that sort of stuck with you. It stuck with me throughout my whole academic career. Like, I really suck at this. Then I got into an engineering program and I thought, I really suck at this. I don't know why I'm here. I just tested better on the math side than the English side, amazingly enough, and the SATs. I'm still not good at this, but you still carry it. And then when you get into your career, you still have people coming at you, telling you, because you're a woman, that you're not really that good. You just got there because you're a woman. And while it's there, sort of seeded, what somebody said to you as a child, it's in you, and maybe you don't feel like you're actually representing that image, but it's still stuck there, seated in your head, because that's where the self-doubt is from. And I think I'm just one of those people. I don't give two. I really just don't. I end up just doing things, and it's sort of, I channel in. I take the stuff that people say to me that's negative, and I channel it in, and I make sure whatever I put out is 100 times better than what they think that I'm going to. So I succeed no matter what. That's just the way it is. It may take me longer. It may take me a little bit more effort than probably I wanted to put in, but I will succeed. And I usually succeed better than what they expected. And I think a lot of times people try to seed that in little girls, that you are no good, that you are not good at something, and we carry it. I think all children do, but I think little girls that are ethnic carry it harder and carry it longer. And we then take that all and we channel it in. And some people are really good at making sure they excel, and some people don't. And I think there are too many people that have really taken that negativity and really pushed people down. And I think that's the biggest problem. But for me, no, I'm not having it. As I always tell people, when I was a kid, I met the Queen, I didn't curtsy.
Absolutely.
Curtsy. She didn't curtsy, I didn't curtsy. So I was like, you're equal. I don't care, title or not. You're equal to me. And that's the way I look at it with everything. You know, we're all equal. And yeah.
As it should be. As it should be. Suki, the other point that is so important here is that this is about starting early. So if you want women in tech, if you want diverse women in tech, if you want things to change, we have to work with kids very young. Here, let me give you a statistic. In Texas and Nevada in the United States, they examine the literacy rates of third graders, very young children,
Yeah.
to determine the size of the prison system in 10 to 15 years. That is how strong the correlation is between illiteracy and going into crime, into bad behaviors. So let's flip that, like Suki, you are modeling for all of us. Let's flip that and say, what if we put money and invest into early education, into those self-esteems, into those powerful children in our community, which has got a lot of immigrants from Mexico, where the kids are going back and saying, no, you don't have to take second best. We are going to college, or we are going to do this. We're going into STEM. And then they work to turn the parents around. So it's child-parent relationships, and it's working very, very early. So thank you. That was awesome.
I think also that one of the areas that is missing when we are talking about early education is that you have to realize it is generational. So the teachers that are teaching these children at this time, they also have to do a mindset switch. And it's not just, oh, you can just come in and start teaching kids. If you haven't actually adopted that mindset yourself, you're not going to be doing anything different. It's a very cyclical thing. So it's a matter of hopping in and saying, okay, the teachers that we are training right now in college and university, that they need to make sure that their whole mindset of what they've been taught in their childhood is different when they're going in to teach. And then we have to also be training those teachers that are currently there, how to change their minds. This is something, it's not just, you can just start here at, say, you know, someone who is 18 going into university that's starting to teach. Oh, we're going to start there. This is a complete, it's like the lean cycle. It's cyclical, it's iterative. We have to teach every single segment of society has to be shifted with their minds, especially within the education system. But, you know, I think the education system's broken, but I'm just globally. But, you know, hey, I'm going to be quiet now because I'm just, you know, I'm on one of those moods. The sun was shining today.
We love it. Flavilla, what have you really seen as a main challenge, and how did you handle it? What can you help everybody else with?
I need to unmute myself first. Yeah, it's a very good question. What I've seen, you know, since I've created TLA Black Women in Tech, is I've seen a very happy people, first of all, being able to find themselves. That was a good thing. They say, oh, we can find each other. We can actually have people who understand, people who look like me, I can have a conversation with. Because as a Black woman, you're often lonely. You're often the only one in the room. And when you're a woman, you're often also the only one in the room. But as a Black woman, it happens very often. So that's one thing that they've seen. And what I've seen as well, because everybody talks about George Floyd and the lack of diversity from a gender point of view, but I'm looking at it as well from an ethnicity point of view. So one of the things that I've seen is that a lot of people are, most of the changes and the ambition to see the changes come from the bottom of the pyramid. A lot of big boss, certain companies obviously have been driven, understand the power of diversity, such as the likes of, the big brands, Facebook, Google have been, the brands understand that to grow their business. But for the smaller businesses, most of the one who are driving the change are people at the bottom of the pyramid. So they are the one who say, hey, I want to introduce you to my boss. I want people to I want you to run a training. I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to talk at our event. And that's amazing. And then not saying that it's always talking in a closed door, but the changes is quite often brought by people from the bottom. That's what I find is nice, because I think through, the trend of, Black Lives Matter, we've heard a lot of noise, but, did the action follow? Not always. We recently conducted a survey with UK Black Tech and Tech London Advocates, and 58% of the Black leaders agree that diversity has to come at board levels first to really drive the change. And therefore, whatever it is for, bringing people into net roles, or bringing people, obviously hiring people, but also, as I say, making those invisible opportunities more visible. I love that. We did an event last month and someone said that by the time you apply for a role and nobody knows who is that name on that list, you probably never get the job. And that what we're talking about is quite often necessity to be able to develop those soft skills, as we talked about mentorship, as we talked about being able to allow people to understand how they can navigate, but also not hiring just at the bottom, but also hiring at the top. I don't know if I'm responding to the question, but really that's some of the things that I've seen happening within the tech space. And I really want to see more of that happening, not only for the big companies, but also for the smaller companies to do something better. Because I think what is missing right now, it's a framework, because people are scared of saying the wrong thing, of doing the wrong thing. So therefore they don't do anything. And therefore we just focus on just recruiting based on just, the talent or the expertise. But if they actually look for the different, I love that, because in my agency, we are such a beautiful melting pot. And I love that people come from different backgrounds. That's what makes us super creative, because we don't think the same. And innovation is driven by being uncomfortable, being able to see a problem from a different angle. And that's one thing that people are not able to yet align, commercial value and diversity. And that's where the framework can come in, and having those companies who are the lead, technology companies who lead them, to give them the guidance, how they've done it, to make the change for everybody else within the industry.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I better just stay off mute. That is really brilliant. That is really brilliant. If you were to just say two things that young women could do to break through all this infrastructure that we see. I mean, I see so many layers. Just in working with all these newly appointed DEI officers, and the ones that have been there all along. So Salesforce, obviously, Tony Prophet's been there for a really long time, and his team, but others are really brand new, being given the positions in July and August of last year. Are they getting anywhere? Because when I look at the numbers, and I do recognize pandemic is part of this, the numbers stink.
Yeah.
They really stink, and it is far worse than what the Human Rights Institute published. It's in my article on GTA Connects. Is even worse than it was now. Was a few years ago in 2019. What are one or two things you think that young women could do to break through? It can be from doing studies, whatever you think.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I always say, my mom has always been my biggest role model is be bold, be cheeky. And she always said to me, if you don't ask, you don't get, ask Ras. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you want something, don't wait for this to be served to you. And I think that's the biggest mistake quite often I see people doing, quite often women in general will do, is that they underestimate how good they are and wait people to see their talents. No, no, no. Nobody's going to see your talent. You have to go out there and really be loud. Think about what a guy would do, not just a white guy, what a guy would do. He would just, sell himself better than anybody else. And women are just too shy away. I think that, your talent is going to be seen and somebody's going to come and magically, the girl next door going to open your door. I'm being very mean right now, but I want to be a woman to be more bold and just say, can you be my mentor? And just be very persistent. That's what I do. I don't wait for things to happen to me. And if I see something that I don't like, I just tell you as it is. That's always been my character. I'm not saying that you have to be that aggressive as I am, but I would say don't wait for opportunities to come to you, create them, make it happen. Tell them, tell out loud what you want. And you'd be surprised how many people want to help you,
Absolutely. Anything else you want to add to that before we go to Karima, Catherine? All right.
Are you asking me or are you asking someone else?
I was asking you, Flavilla.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. That was funny.
I'm like, are you asking all of us? Because I mean, if we jump in here, because there's a reason why she asked me to be on the committee.
I say let it rip, be bold, cheeky. That is going in our newsletter. That's a direct quote from the wonderful. Okay, so Karima, Catherine, what would you like to add to this as a challenge that you've seen in Canada or in your world? And what would you tell a young woman about what they can do?
So I think there's a common denominator for the people around the table. I think we're very similar in the fact that we're aggressive, we go for what we want, we create these opportunities, and hopefully, we succeed when we're told no. So I've been Black on 4 continents. I can tell you that it sucks in every single one of them, but so since it's not going to change in my lifetime, no matter how many George Floyds we have, I think we have to be the game changer and not wait for people to save us, really. So as a child, I was told no for multiple reasons. No, because I was a girl, because I was a Black girl, because I was a French-speaking girl, because I was a French-speaking girl from a diplomatic family, so you couldn't do entrepreneurship. It wasn't the thing to do. And I took all this and I said, no, I'm just going to do me. But that took a defining moment. It took a defining moment where when I worked for a huge corporation and I had been hired solely based on my skill set. And here I am at in a place where I'm in middle management with a lot of, men at the top, a lot of men at the bottom. And I'm stuck here where I was asked finally to do what I knew how to do, which was being a subject matter expert. I had a wonderful champion, a woman who put me on very high visibility projects. And this is why I said it was a defining moment, because those projects allowed me to do reverse mentoring, to speak to CEOs and be listened to for what I knew, my knowledge, my uniqueness also. So I didn't have to fit in that box. And this really propelled me, obviously from a career perspective, but it also stayed with me as for who I was. And it totally changed my perspective. It made me unstoppable. All of a sudden, nothing that someone else could say negative could impact what I was going to do. On the opposite, pretty much like Suki said, every single time somebody said, you cannot do this, I was going to do it 100 times better, faster than you thought I was going to do it. And I think, this uniqueness and authenticity and my way to do business and tech, hopefully to ignite other people,
Okay, so in sum, we've all been through the same thing. We're different generations. We're different forms of diversity, different cultures, and the experience is the same. It was no, you're not good enough. Not a lot of support until you looked for it. And we all responded, fuck that. We're going to build something different, and we're going to figure out what our solutions are. And diplomacy, the definition of diplomacy is telling someone to go to hell and making them happy to be on their way. So I found myself like that in that situation so many times, because again, I didn't want to lose my job as an investment, advisor. I didn't want to lose my job in marketing. You pushed as far as you could. And there were times when I found that even standing in the back of the room, not just on stage, but standing in the back of the room and watching what's going on, and then figuring out where to go in and be most effective, is also powerful. And I think we've all figured out and coped to some degree. That's just an observation of what I'm hearing today. So I don't want to lose a chance at your intellectual capital, because it's significant on this panel. And I want to ask you, and the short one is, how did the pandemic impact your efforts, work, whatever? Literally just 2 lines, because I'm pretty sure they're the same. But I want to hear more about what strategies you think would be effective with some of these tech companies, or when you're working with founders of fellow startups or scale-ups, to get past this bureaucracy, because I always see the bureaucracy starting in the C-suite. Sheryl Sandberg's very clear that her DEI officer is in all meetings with her, and that works for them. That's an example of a strategy, other than just kind of crowning someone with it. And who do you think is effective? So many parts of that question. Anybody just go for it. Dialogue.
I'll jump in. I think with COVID, we're all using the technology. On one hand, it's really increasing our ability to get hold of people and participate in the meetings. But at the same time, it's also very easy to just close the camera or just stay silent as a silent participant. So, at our company, Penzora, we have a philosophy of managing from the strength. As we look at how people participate, how we evaluate a contribution, I personally don't want to go through and say, hey, Judy, you're good at this and you're not so good at that. We talk about our superpower. This picture here is a reminder in our office. We don't have anything else yet because of COVID, but we all have our superpower picture here, because we want to bring out everyone's superpower. We're not focusing so much about here are your areas of improvement, because we hire diverse people. We all have our superpower and our unique skill set. When we add all these superpowers together, we can work on any initiative. We can make literally anything happen. So we talk about superpowers and adding all our superpowers together to form the team to tackle these initiatives and to drive the result. So that is one thing we learned during this COVID, how we bring the best out of people.
That's great. And any comment on strategies that you believe are working to get more diverse women in tech companies or among startups and scale-ups?
Hiring has to be different.
There you go.
How we scope, how we recruit, how we bring candidates in, how we bring them on board, how we work with each other, how we think about the performance review, the criteria. I think over time, we need to get to the next level, and it's a revolutionary way of looking at our talent very differently.
Definitely agree. And I think that's even more behind than the numbers. So I'm not feeling very confident about that, with the exception of we just have to really keep pressing down. It's all about communication. We have more communication channels. We have to use them. That's what we're finding definitely in Silicon Valley, and I'm hearing from you around the world. Who else wants to tackle that question about what are we going to do about this? And what
I do want to
Oh,
go ahead.
Suki. No, please go ahead, Suki.
I was just going to say, I do think we see a lot of people and a lot of companies that are being performative, because over the years, I mean, we've been talking about the improvement of the numbers of women within the STEM community for years. I mean, since the Women in Tech group started in 2000, that's always been an issue. Like we need more women in tech, and the number goes up a little bit. We need more women in tech that are founders, that get their companies founded, and that number goes up a little bit more. And then say, oh, we need more female VCs. We need more women in VC, and then the number goes up. Then it comes back down because somebody starts an initiative, everybody signs on to it. It's basically bandwagoned and everybody jumps on and they're like, woohoo, let's ride the train. Let's get this done. And then it sort of tempers away and people don't do anything about it. And companies have signed initiatives. They've said, we're going to give this money, and they never do. And you see the same thing with anything in an ethnic community. We see it right now with people that have promised money last year with Black Lives Matter. That's not going to happen. We see it this year with the UK government. Windrush. We see it with every sort of initiative that has to do with helping people that are not in the majority. Sorry for all the people that are in the majority that are watching, just telling it like it is, take the punch. And the fact is, you have all these numbers that people always say they're going to improve, they're going to give this money, and then they don't. So right now, I think the thing that we really want to see, everybody wants to see, is action. It is actually, you have the numbers, it's actionable intelligence. It's take it and use it. Don't talk about it anymore. I think we're all done talking. Now we just want to see you put your money where your mouth is. You've already promised the money. And as I always tell female founders, any founder, I'm like, the deal is not done until you spent the money yourself. When it's in your bank account, it's still not, the deal is not done. When you have spent the money on what you want to spend it on, the deal is done. And so until we see that in our communities, when we have the money, when those initiatives have been acted, and we can say 3 years from now that the number went up and we're like, oh my gosh, it's 15% more women in tech, the deal is done. Not finished, but the deal is done because we've seen the numbers, we've seen the improvement, and that is what I want to see. I'm sorry, I'm just on one of those today, because it's just frustrating because we've been doing this for a long time and the numbers need to improve. And I, for one, am quite sick of seeing female founders not get funded. Meanwhile, we have people with the most inane startup that, some guy who just happened to be working at this company, happened to know somebody, happened to get funded for some ridiculous amount. Meanwhile, you have females that are starting companies, you have femtech solutions, but because they're pointed at females, they're not getting funded. When in fact, we are the largest population on this planet. It's like 52% of the world is women. Why are we not getting the money for products that actually we know if you help women, this actually go into better society? But, sorry, I just had a little hobby horse moment there. I'll be quiet now.
Very true.
But it's super interesting what you say, Suki, and I just want to jump on this because I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter last week where he was saying that any moron can get a 4 million check right now to get funded. I'm a twice funder, and I can get conversation. Everybody wants to mentor me, but where's the check? So now, the problem is I actually asked them, I said, look, I don't need mentoring. I want the money, right? So I think to go back to your question, my company has never, we were functioning the way, the COVID way before COVID 6 years ago. So I didn't have to, to do anything. We've always been super flexible and we've always been super inclusive, right? We've had parity for women and men and, with the company around the world. So I mean, for me, COVID was, yeah, it was problematic. I couldn't travel, but I didn't stop. Actually, it accelerated my activities. Now, I think we're trying to solve the recruitment problem at the recruitment stage, but I think, we're all saying it. It starts with kids. It really starts with kids. It starts with girls at a young age. They need to have the confidence, the boldness that they can actually do anything. We also need to have a healthy pipeline of women in STEM. We need to start with little kids that by the time they get hired, we don't end up with underconfident young women. Like literally, we need to have to make that change. It's important also to teach more girls about tech, but also teach them other skill set to allow them to be okay to be in a room where they might be the only ones, you know. um, I agree also with what my colleague said, like it's important to challenge hiring practices. You always, people are always going to hire the easy one, the easy candidates. You need to be more diverse. Even open-minded people have blind spots, so we need more perspectives to help counter this, right? I mean, this is why TLA is amazing and the global community is fantastic, because not only do we meet people like, Suki and Flavilla and you, Lannie, but also we really have great support and sponsors. Russ and the team are amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, I love everything that's been said. And it's exactly why, I sweating right now, creating this book called The Voices in the Shadow, because the way I'm probably going to be very pessimistic. I think that the change that we're doing right now, the efforts that we're doing right now is not going to be for us. It's going to be for the next generation. Let's be realistic, anything that we're doing right now is probably not going to make a big impact. But if we are able to start sooner, again, something, I always just think about my own story. If we're able to support them from a young age so they can think about themselves and think about their own value from the beginning, and help those companies understand how they can do better in terms of hiring or choosing, better candidates, it's important. So there's two things that we have done. So COVID has been great, like Karima, nothing has changed. As from an agency point of view, we're already hybrid, so no difference. From a TLA point of view, again, it was actually much better because I was focusing on London, but now I'm UK, which was fantastic. So we have literally have an audience across the UK and even other countries, which is fantastic. So we're going to carry on that. But for me, one of my big projects has always been about how can I touch more than one generation. And the book was great because I talked about, I will highlight women who are doing great things right now in technology, so elevating representation, at the same time putting something different in the hand of young girls so they can think, wow, if she can do it, so can I. And that's really what the power starts in. And again, we can talk about what we're doing right now in the working space, in the business space, but the change is really for the next generation.
Can I just add something really fast? I'm talking to little kids, and one of the things is when they're about 5 or 6 years old, there's always a little kid, a little boy that is totally admiring a little girl, not because she's a little girl and she's cute. It's like, I want to be like her because she's smart. And then that sort of flips by the time they get to 8 or 9, and even by the time they get to 10, it's like they don't want to be like the girl anymore. It's, I like her because she's pretty. And it's like, what changes? They no longer want to be like the girl because the girl is smart. They don't want to talk to the girl because she's smart. It's like, why do you want to sit next to that little girl? Because she's really smart. But then in 3 or 4 years later, it changes. And it's one of those fascinating things. I mean, that there's, the amazing life, the fascinating life of 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. And if you watch the series, you can see where it progressively changes as they get older. And that's a societal construct. Those are the things that we have to change in society just in order for this to change. Because this is the human dynamic right now, and it's being fought, but it can be shifted, because that's not the way it's always been. It does not have to be this way.
Yes, and you can say that I'm looking for sponsors. So
yes, looking for sponsors for the Voices in the Shadow book, by the way.
Say that.
But I mean, it is. I really do. is, I'm sure, I think we all agree, it is all about education. It is education. And even when people are hiring for their companies, the whole fact of how you have actually formed your company. If you start with your company being diverse at the very beginning, when you're thinking about your product, you don't just go to your best friend who looks exactly like you, if that's the way it is. You got to also go to somebody else who's not in your circle. You got to be willing to take that first step outside of your circle and say, well, hey, let me ask this person. I don't know them very well. Or let me ask this person to ask somebody else out of my circle. And then you bring those people in. The only way, in order for this to change, it has to be diverse from the beginning. The best products, as we know, in the world have been diverse in the beginning because, some guy might have invented something, but then he asked his wife, even though he thought it was only for men. Then he asked his wife, and his wife said, maybe you should adjust it. And guess what? That then product then becomes accessible for men and women. And that's how it grows. And we're at a point in society now where people don't even think about doing D&I. I have issues with that whole title, but anyways, but people don't think about it until, they've already formed their company and then something happens and they go, well, we need a diversity person.
Yeah.
No, you needed to have a diverse team in the beginning. And then if you need a diversity person, that should be built into the function of your company.
Yeah.
It's not a separate entity. You don't all of a sudden go, oh, wait, we're diverse. No.
But the blind spot, and Suki, maybe all those people should actually have a lot of Black women around them, because I think we're diverse by design. I mean, seriously, when you're diverse by design, if you take my team, we're literally diverse at every single level. And the thing why is because I understand the struggle. So if you've never had that struggle, why would you wake up all of a sudden and think of others? It's like, as kids that are alone in their families, why do you think they don't want to share their toys? Same thing for founders. I think diversity is like an effort for others because they actually never had to think about it.
Exactly. Judy, it's true, right? If you're not an other, then you don't understand being othered. And I think for that's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably see it in your team.
Yeah, I call them sparring partners.
That's brilliant. That sparring partners, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Give it to us. We'll figure it out.
But in a way, it's sad that we have to get to this point. But I think, I agree with Flavilla. I think what we're doing now will be for the next generation. I don't think this is for. I mean, we can see small progress, but we need this to be at scale. When I want to go back to funding. The funding realm is a whole different conversation. It's brutal for women. They will even tell you that you shouldn't be aggressive because it's not nice for investors. And I'm going, so it's totally okay for a boy to come in, to wear a hoodie and to say whatever he wants and have a silly idea that will be financed. But if I'm remotely assertive about my product, I'm being aggressive to investors.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm sure there are some funders that way, but that sounds like that is not the right strategy that I'm seeing working because as you say, be bold, be cheeky it's such a balance, but yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying to be told that you can't be real and sincere and what you see is what you get. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I'm hoping that
one of the things that we did, sorry, Lannie, one of the things that I do is when I speak to female founders, I always tell them whatever the 100% number that you think you have in your head, add 3% to it. I always I automatically, whatever number you have in your head, add 30%. And then that is actually going to be your lowest number. I'm just like, because there are guys that will go in, and it's not just guys, there are some women that will go in with some pie in the sky number and somebody will write a check.
Yeah.
And a lot of women, unfortunately, is a lot of female founders that I speak to, they go in and computed everything down to the nitty gritty. And then I said, well, what are you going to live on? Oh, well, I'll survive. No, you won't.
This is so
No,
true.
you won't. It's just, there's so, we could go on for hours, but there's so much stuff that we need to do. Best practices, NEDs and boards, education, funding, personal development. You think of all those things, those are the things that we have to do. But I say the biggest one, education. Hands down, education. It's education. It's next generation. It's about, it is next generation education.
Absolutely, because we know what we've all been through, and that is a phenomenal one takeaway, and I totally agree with it, especially early education with the example that I cited. Flavilla, one takeaway, and then we're going to start to wrap.
For me, I like what Suki said, and instead of calling education, I would say curiosity. Just be curious about what you don't know, and create a culture. And I think when people say what is culture, culture is about how you treat people. So think about that culture, because when I work with brands, what is your culture? How are you going to treat people? That's what's going to attract the right talent. And as Karima said, we have by nature diverse. I always attract diverse and talent. And people say, how do you do that? It's because that's the way I created my brand. I wanted this to attract the right people. So really, cultivating a curious mind is the secret for me.
Marvelous, marvelous. Judy.
I think we need to build the communities. We got to help each other. And, women, diversity groups, we all need to help each other. And literally in my mind, it's this dragging as many people as we can to shift and drive the shift in the mindset. The more we can drag people over and through this journey and dragging, people who are not in this mindset started seeing it, experiencing it, then we can change that mind. So whether it's through education, through investing, through helping each other, through mentoring, let's create these initiatives to keep dragging people over to the future state, to a better state.
I love it. Karima Catherine.
I want to say be okay with being in misfits. Sometimes you're not I'm the misfit in chief, and I don't care. I think we really need to give people the space, especially little girls, the space to be who they are and not to have to apologize. And so, and specifically in male-dominated environments, and not want to format them into what we think is proper. And just so that I don't repeat what everybody else said, but I do agree with my colleagues as well.
Awesome. I want to ask you all a very quick question, and then I'll wrap up, which is a scorecard, a way to consistently measure across all these industries how we are being more diverse. I can't tell you what I went through over the past 10 years to get consistent numbers, because everybody makes up their own thing, and it's so confusing. And there's also a lot of things that are hidden under those numbers that people are covering up. So if you have interest in participating in the scorecard, anyone who is listening online now, who is listening post facto, or any of you, please reach out to me, because this is something that I believe is part of the action plan, which is, we know, for example, we need education. So how much is in early education? How much is this? What portion of that is STEM? That's an example of a metric. It is not just about how many DEI officers, and you're right, we've got to find another way to phrase this. How many diverse chiefs do we have? It's crazy. So if you have interest in that, why don't you just reach out to me on email. Any last thoughts from any of you?
I always have thoughts.
I was gonna say.
I'm like, come on, don't leave that open. No, I do agree. Insatiable curiosity, Flavilla, is always the ground root of, making sure that we can get that sort of generational legacy. And as Judy said, you know, pulling all those other people over. So if they're going to get left behind. And pretty much if you leave people behind, especially when they see the money's being made over here, because you have companies that are more diverse, they're getting better returns, they're making more money, their world is getting better, and you got the people over here that aren't, they're going to move over here. They're going to change their minds real fast because, as you said earlier, show me the money. That's the way it is. And, you know, as Karina Catherine said, you know, look, be okay with being the misfit. And I always say also, be okay with not being the best, but still being really good. You don't have to always be the very best, because guess what? There are a lot of average guys out there that are considered the best. So fact of the matter is, not everybody can be the best, because not everybody can be number one. We can't all get the gold medal. So just be the best that you can be. I always tell people the only thing that I'm an expert at is being me. That's it. Everything else is just, you know, yeah, I'm good at it. It's not to the end of my life that I can actually say that I was an expert at that. But I'm expert at Suki because I'm the only one. So.
Be famous, absolutely. So we are also open to having more people work with us, and a co-chair for our diverse women in tech. So if you know anyone, does not necessarily have to be in the Bay Area. So you see how we're doing things with parts of TLA and parts with Tech Nordic. Something for everybody to think about. Please DM me, or you can just email me. And to all of you, I want to thank you for being real, for being honest, for being vulnerable, and damn, for being action oriented. You've got me so fired up that I'm just like, let's just go get this done right now.
Count on us.
Yeah, there you go. And there's Maya, because you know what? It is not easy to be a white woman in tech either. So we all go through it. But anyway, I want to thank you so much. Look for what we're doing in this whole arena as we move forward with our events. Each one of you could have your own hour, and I recognize that. So there will be more to do there. And assuming London is virtual, we are having something for London Tech Week. We would love to have you be part of something that we're doing there too. So thank you so much.